Before you ever opened your eyes, before your heart beat for the very first time, the heavens already knew your name. In the secret place where the foundations of the world were laid, God in his infinite love whispered your existence into being. And as he did, he called forth a guardian, a servant of light, an angel whose sole purpose would be to walk with you, unseen yet unwavering, through every shadow and every sunrise of your life. This angel, radiant and steadfast, stood among the celestial hosts, clothed in light woven from the breath of the stars. He was not sent to rule, nor to command, but to guard, to watch over the one who had not yet drawn a single breath, but was already so deeply loved, you. Long before the world would know you, long before the earth would feel the soft weight of your steps, your guardian waited, with hands lifted in silent prayer, ready to protect, ready to fight for your soul without ever asking for thanks. Psalm 91 declares, "For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways." And so it was decreed, an eternal promise stitched into the very fabric of time. Your angel was not chosen at random. He was chosen because he saw you, even then, not as you would become, but as you were meant to be, a child of light, a creation crafted by the hands of the Almighty himself, precious, cherished, worthy of being fought for. And so, from the heights of heaven to the hidden corners of your days, your guardian began his vigil, waiting, watching, and loving you even before you knew to love back. The night you were born, the heavens leaned low. The stars, ancient in their courses, seemed to hush their gleaming songs. The winds softened their endless roaming, and even the rain, falling in quiet curtains from the sky, seemed to weep with joy. It was a night unlike any other, and somewhere beyond the sight of men, in the courts of heaven, a celebration stirred, not loud and triumphant, but soft and trembling, filled with awe. For tonight, a soul crafted by the hand of God himself would take its first breath upon the earth. And standing closest of all, unseen by human eyes, but as real as the air itself, was your guardian, clothed not in armor of battle, but in robes woven from light, carrying not sword nor shield, but a heart filled with relentless love. He bent low over you, the one he had waited for since the moment God had spoken your name into existence. Your first cry broke through the stillness of the night, fragile yet fierce, a melody that heaven had longed to hear. It was not the cry of fear, but the anthem of a soul stepping across the threshold of eternity, from the mind of God into the story of the world. The rain fell heavier for a moment, as if the sky itself was blessing the ground where you would walk, and your angel wept, not with sorrow, but with a joy so pure that even the stars seemed to shimmer brighter. You were here. At last, you had arrived. Psalm 139 whispers the truth. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And so you were. Every breath, every heartbeat, every unseen dream within you, already known, already cherished by the one who shaped the mountains and filled the seas. Around you, the world bustled. Nurses moved with careful hands. Lights buzzed softly overhead. Voices murmured. Yet beyond all that human noise, a quieter world existed. A world where angels held their vigil, where prayers unspoken rose like incense into the halls of heaven. Your guardian stood at your side, closer than your own breath, his eyes never leaving you. Already he saw the long road ahead, the laughter and the tears, the victories and the battles, the nights when you would wonder if you were truly seen, the mornings when you would rise, unknowing, because he had fought for you while you slept. Already he knew the prayers you would whisper into your pillow, the dreams you would cradle in your heart, the moments when despair would reach for you, and the moments when hope would pull you back into the light. He knew it all, and still he loved you, not because of what you would do, but simply because you existed. Matthew 18:10 reminds us, "See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven." Your angel did not serve you because you were strong, or wise, or good. He served you because you were precious, a living testament to the love of God, a soul woven from eternity. And so that first night, beneath the weeping skies and the unseen songs of the stars, your guardian began his lifelong watch. Through every night that would come, through every storm, through every wandering season, he would be there, silent, faithful, carrying you when you could not carry yourself, speaking your name before the throne of the Almighty. When you felt most alone, you were never abandoned, you were never overlooked, not even for a moment. For even then, as you slept in the cradle of that first fragile night, you were loved by a God who moved the heavens for you, and guarded by an angel who would never ever leave your side. The days that followed your birth unfolded like the first soft notes of a lifelong song. Each sunrise pulled new colors across the sky. Each sunset wrapped the world in quiet shadows, and beneath it all, you grew, small, fragile, beautiful. You were unaware of the vastness that watched over you. You did not know of the hands that carried you when you stumbled, the wings that shielded you when unseen dangers crept near. You simply lived, innocent and free, as the Creator intended. And always just beyond the veil of your sight, your guardian remained. In your earliest years, when the world was nothing more than shapes and sounds, your angel walked the quiet corners of your days. He was there in the stillness of the night, when you cried out in the dark and the soft hand of comfort found you. He was there when laughter bubbled from you in wild, fearless bursts, when you ran without looking, fell without fear, dreamed without limit. Every scraped knee, every moment of trembling, every tear you shed when the world felt too large, your guardian saw it all. And though his voice was not heard by your ears, his prayers were lifted ceaselessly for you, prayers of protection, of strength, of courage for the battles you had not yet even begun to face. There were moments when dangers came close, closer than you could have ever known, the unseen perils of a broken world, a car that swerved just a moment too late, a hand that pulled you back from the edge, a sickness that threatened but never took hold. You thought it was luck, you thought it was coincidence, but heaven knew better. Psalm 91:11 had been written into the very story of your life, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. And so it was. Every day your angel stood between you and the storm. There were nights, too, longer, colder nights, when fear found its way into your young heart. The shadows seemed taller then, the silence heavier. You would call out into the darkness, seeking comfort. And though human hands might not always reach you in time, the warmth you felt, the sudden peace that would sometimes flood your small heart, was no accident. It was a hand unseen, a voice you could not yet understand, singing over you with the songs of heaven. Zephaniah 3:17 speaks softly across the ages. The Lord your God is with you. He will take great delight in you, in his love. He will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. And so it was that your angel, standing watch in the deep hours of night, sang silent songs of comfort over you, songs woven not from fear, but from the certainty that you were loved beyond understanding. You were never alone. Even in the ordinary days, the messy, laughter-filled mornings, the scraped knees and muddy shoes, the quiet afternoons spent chasing butterflies or whispering to stuffed animals, you were being watched over. Not with impatience, not with frustration, but with the unbreakable patience of heaven itself. There were moments when you wandered closer to danger than you knew. Moments when your guardian moved with the swiftness of light to shield you. You never saw the battles fought on your behalf, the whispered threats turned away, the accidents avoided, the sicknesses softened, but they were real as the heartbeat that thundered in your small chest. And though the years would pass, and your understanding of the world would grow, this truth remained unchanged. You were being carried, by grace, by unseen hands, by a love too vast to measure. And through it all your angel never ceased his watch. He never left his post, not once. For he had been sent not merely to guard you in the fragile moments of infancy, but to walk beside you into every chapter of your life, through every shadow, every sunrise, until the day you would finally see with unveiled eyes just how deeply you were loved all along. You were never forgotten. You were never forsaken. From the first breath of life to the uncertain steps of childhood, you were shielded by a love you could not see, but that never for a single moment stopped seeing you. As the seasons turned and you grew beyond the safety of childhood's first wonders, the world around you grew larger, louder, and more complex. New emotions stirred within you, questions without easy answers, wounds you did not yet know how to name. It was in these moments, the quiet, aching moments, that your guardian stood most vigilant. The battles he fought for you were no longer only over scraped knees or sudden dangers. They were battles for your heart, for your hope, for the unseen places within you, where dreams and doubts wrestled in secret. The world, broken and beautiful, whispered its false promises. It offered approval for a price, love with conditions, acceptance tied to performance. And though you were still so young, those voices found their way to you, subtle, patient, persistent. You did not see the darkness that crouched just beyond the veil, nor hear the whispered lies that brushed past your ears. You are not enough. You are forgotten. You must earn love. But your guardian heard them. He heard every lie before it reached you. He saw every shadow that tried to stretch its fingers toward your light, and he fought, not with sword or spear, but with the power of the one who had sent him, with prayers that shook the heavens, with a shield of faith that deflected the arrows you never knew were aimed at you. He battled not for your perfection, but for your belief in something greater than yourself, for your trust in the one who had loved you from the very beginning. Hebrews 1:14 reminds us, "Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation?" And so, unseen, he ministered to you. There were days when you felt inexplicably brave, speaking words of kindness when cruelty would have been easier. There were moments when you forgave, even though anger would have tasted sweeter. There were quiet afternoons when you lifted your eyes to the sky and wondered if there was more, a faint stirring that there was someone who truly saw you. You thought it was simply your own heart, but heaven knew it was more. It was a battle won, a lie defeated, a small seed of faith, kept alive in the soil of your soul by the relentless love of your guardian. There were wounds too, some that pierced deep, friends who betrayed, words that cut, moments of loss you could not fully understand. Your angel wept over every hurt. He stood guard over every crack that tried to widen into despair. And when you lay awake in the long hours of the night, wrestling with sadness too big for your small body, he was there, whispering prayers over you, gathering your tears like priceless jewels, offering them at the feet of the Almighty, who counted every sorrow. Psalm 56:8 speaks of this tender truth. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Nothing was lost, no tear unseen, no sigh unheard. And though you often felt small, felt unseen in a world that rushed and roared, your guardian never wavered in his mission. He saw the weight you carried, even when you didn't have the words for it. He saw the moments you chose kindness when bitterness would have been easier. He saw the faith beginning to flicker inside you, a tiny flame that the winds of the world could not fully extinguish. You were growing, stronger, wiser, more beautiful than you knew, and the battles he fought on your behalf, though hidden, became the quiet victories that shaped you. You did not know it yet, but you were being prepared for a journey far greater than you could imagine. And through it all, your angel remained at your side, a silent witness to every heartbreak, every triumph, every prayer whispered in secret. The first battles of the heart had begun, and you, the one he was sent to protect, were learning to carry light into a world that would try again and again to steal it away. But you would not be alone. Not then, not ever. Time moved forward, as it always does. The days of innocent wonder gave way to seasons of questioning, of longing, of searching for a place to belong. You stepped into the years where the world seemed larger and lonelier all at once, where the voices around you grew louder and the path ahead felt tangled with thorns. And your guardian, ever faithful, never left your side. He watched as your heart, once so easily trusting, became cautious, wary of the wounds it had learned could come without warning. He watched as your laughter grew quieter, as your questions grew heavier, as the simplicity of childhood gave way to the ache of becoming. The world whispered new lies now, sharper, crueler. You are alone. You are not enough. You must hide who you really are. And though you could not see it, your angel battled harder than ever. He stood between you and despair, between you and the tempters that lurked in every shadow. He lifted prayers for you that stretched higher than the mountains, pleas for protection, for courage, for mercy when you stumbled. There were nights when you wept into your pillow, not even knowing why. Nights when the loneliness pressed against your chest like a weight too heavy to bear. He was there. There were mornings when you woke feeling empty, as if the light inside you had been drained away. He was there. He was there. When your heart first broke, when betrayal from a friend or the loss of a dream left you hollow. He was there when anger flared in your soul, when injustice gnawed at your spirit, When you wondered if goodness was even real anymore, you questioned everything. Yourself, the people around you, sometimes even God. And still your guardian did not waver. Still he loved you. Still he fought for you. He did not condemn your doubts, nor turn away from your broken prayers. He carried them, every single one, into the throne room of heaven, offering them up, not as failures, but as cries from a heart still searching for home. 2 Corinthians 12:9 holds the promise. He never let you forget. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Your weaknesses did not repel him. They only made his prayers for you all the fiercer. There were times when you stood at the crossroads of choice, paths leading into deeper shadows, paths that promised quick comfort but long sorrow. And there, at those crossroads, your angel fought with everything heaven could give him, not to force you, never to take away the sacred gift of your will, but to surround you with grace, to whisper hope when all seemed hopeless, to place just enough light on your path that you could find your way back if you strayed. Sometimes you listened, sometimes you did not, and even in your rebellion, even in your wandering, your angel never gave up on you. He wept when you ran into places that wounded you. He stood watch when you closed your heart in anger. He knelt beside you in every secret moment, when you wished you could undo the choices you made. For he knew the truth. You were never loved because you were flawless. You were loved because you were his. Romans 8:38-39 whispers through the dark, for I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Nothing could separate you from that love. Not your doubts, not your anger, not even the shadows you sometimes chose. Your angel knew this, and so he stayed. Even as the battles grew fiercer, even as the nights stretched longer, he kept his silent watch over you, waiting, hoping, believing, even when you struggled to believe yourself, for he could see what you could not yet, that this was not the end of your story, that beyond the long shadows, beyond the wounds and the wandering, there was still a road leading home, and he would walk every step of it with you, even if you never saw him, even if you forgot he was there. You were never truly lost. You were never truly forsaken. You were simply still becoming, and heaven never stopped believing in who you were meant to be. Even in the deepest wanderings, even when the world pressed its weight against your heart, there remained within you a quiet ember, a spark that refused to die. You did not always feel it. Some days the noise drowned it out, the pain buried it, the doubts smothered it, but it was there, buried deep, wrapped in the prayers of heaven, guarded fiercely by the angel who had never stopped believing in you. It began slowly, almost imperceptibly, a soft longing you couldn't explain, a yearning for something more than what the world offered, a hunger for a voice you had once known, but had long silenced. It came in unexpected moments, in the hush before sleep, when the noise of the day faded and your soul, unguarded, cried out for something real, in the ache of disappointment, when what you thought would satisfy left you emptier than before, in the beauty of a sunrise you didn't expect to notice, or the unexplainable peace that washed over you when you should have felt only fear. Your guardian saw it. He saw the stirrings of return, the first fragile steps of a soul remembering its home. He wept, not in sorrow, but in hope, for he had waited through the long nights of your wandering. He had stood watch at the door of your heart, even when it was closed and barred. He had never stopped praying, never stopped believing that the one who began a good work in you would be faithful to complete it. Philippians 1:6 echoed across the heavens. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. The battles did not end. The shadows did not vanish overnight, but something had changed. There were prayers now, small, halting prayers, whispered into the night when you thought no one was listening. Help me. Are you still there? I miss you. Each word was a victory. Each tear shed in longing was a song of return that the angels carried before the throne of God with trembling hands. Your guardian knelt in reverence for every whispered prayer, knowing that heaven counts such things as precious beyond measure. Luke 15:10 speaks the truth. Your angel knew well, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents, and so unseen by earthly eyes, Celebrations stirred in the courts of heaven, not loud and boisterous, but deep, profound, filled with awe. You were turning, slowly, painfully, beautifully. There were setbacks, yes, there were days you stumbled harder than before, nights when doubt roared louder than faith. But the difference now was simple, powerful. You did not stay fallen. Each time you fell, you looked up. Each time you wandered, you remembered there was a road back, and your guardian walked every step of it with you, sometimes carrying you when the burden became too heavy, sometimes standing quietly beside you when you needed to find your own strength. He never condemned you for how long it took. He never grew impatient with your fragile steps. He never once wavered in his mission to see you home. The Father's love was not dependent on your perfection, but on his promise. And your angel, the one who had been assigned to your life before your first breath, held on to that promise with hands that would not let go. There were moments when you caught glimpses of grace, a word spoken at just the right time, a kindness you didn't deserve, a peace that settled over you when everything should have fallen apart. These were not coincidences. They were lifelines, whispers of a love deeper than you knew, and slowly, like a river carving its way back to the sea, your heart began to turn. The journey was not over. It would still be long, winding, full of valleys and shadows, but the direction had changed. You were not running away anymore. You were walking, sometimes crawling, but always moving homeward, and your guardian, who had waded through every storm, rejoiced over every trembling step. You were never alone. You were never abandoned. Even in your wandering, heaven had never stopped fighting for you. And now, as you turned your face once more toward the light, you stepped not into condemnation, but into the embrace of a love that had been waiting for you all along. The story was not over. It was only beginning again.
There is a moment in every life, a quiet, trembling moment, when a soul, newly awakened, must decide whether it will walk forward into the unknown. You had turned your heart toward the light, but the road ahead was not promised to be easy. The journey back to the heart of God was not a simple return, but an adventure marked by both beauty and battle, and your guardian knew it. He had watched over your fragile beginnings. He had fought through your wanderings. He had wept and rejoiced at your every step, and now he began to prepare you for the greater journey ahead. No longer was he only shielding you from unseen dangers. Now he was strengthening you, guiding you to stand. There were lessons you would need to learn. Lessons of trust, of surrender, of courage, not drawn from yourself, but from the spirit within you. And so the training began. It came softly, hidden in the ordinary days, in small choices, to forgive when anger burned hot, to hope when disappointment threatened to harden your heart, to believe when everything around you whispered that faith was foolish. Each act of love, each prayer whispered when no one saw, each quiet turning toward the good, these were victories greater than you could understand. And behind every victory, your angel stood, smiling unseen, lifting silent songs of thanksgiving to the throne of the Almighty. You were learning to fight, but not with weapons of this world. You were learning to fight with love, with forgiveness, with trust, with faith, so stubborn it could not be broken by the winds of despair. 2 Corinthians 10:4 reminds us, the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. Your angel rejoiced in every small stronghold you tore down. Fear, bitterness, shame. Every time you chose to believe you were loved, even when you felt unworthy, he celebrated as heaven celebrated. The enemy did not sleep. The shadows still crept, still whispered, still sought to call you back. But now, you were no longer defenseless. You were no longer unaware of the one who stood with you. There were days when you stumbled, days when old fears clawed at your spirit, days when you questioned if you had truly changed at all. And in those days, your angel stood closest. He did not scorn your weakness. He did not grow weary of lifting you again and again. Instead, he whispered the ancient truth into the depths of your spirit. You are not abandoned. You are not too far gone. You are not fighting alone. Isaiah 41:10 was written into the very marrow of your soul. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. You were learning to lean, not on your own strength, but on his. You were learning that to fall was not the end, but often the beginning of grace. You were learning that the greatest battles are often fought, not on grand stages, but in the secret places of the heart, in choosing kindness when anger is easier, in choosing faith when fear is louder. And through it all, your guardian remained beside you, unseen but ever present, lifting prayers, singing songs, waging silent battles for your soul. The world would not always understand your journey. There would be voices that mocked your faith, storms that sought to tear you from the path. But you were not walking alone. You never had been. You were being prepared for greater things, for a life woven into the very story God had been telling since the beginning of time. A story where your steps mattered, where your prayers moved mountains, where your faith, though small as a mustard seed, would shake the gates of hell, and your angel, your faithful guardian from the first breath of your life, would walk with you into every chapter that was still to come. For your story was not one of failure, but of redemption, not of defeat, but of victory. The journey was just beginning, and all of heaven leaned in to watch, to cheer, to rejoice over the child of God, who was learning to walk in the light once more.
There are moments, even in the heart of angels, when the weight of love brings them to their knees. As you grew, as you stumbled and rose and stumbled again, your guardian sometimes paused, not out of exhaustion, not out of despair, but out of awe at the mercy that had wrapped itself around your life so fiercely, so faithfully, that even the darkest roads you walked could not break you. He would stand in the quiet corners of your days, hidden beyond the veil of the visible world, and he would remember. He remembered the nights when despair had nearly swallowed you whole, when you lay awake believing you were forgotten, when you wondered if the pain would ever loosen its grip. And yet even then, mercy had reached you, a hand in the dark, a whisper in the storm. He remembered the moments when anger burned so hot within you that it threatened to turn your heart to stone. Yet mercy, patient and steady, had softened you, like rain carving its way through the hardest rock. He remembered the days you turned your face away, walking paths that led you deeper into loneliness, paths lined with promises that crumbled like ash in your hands. And yet mercy followed, not with shouts of condemnation, but with the quiet, stubborn love that never once considered giving up. Psalm 23:6 had been true over you, every step of the way. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Your guardian marveled at how often you had been surrounded by dangers you never even saw, how often choices that should have shattered you only shaped you, how often sorrow, though it carved deep valleys in your heart, made room for a deeper, truer kind of joy. Nothing had been wasted, not a tear, not a wound, not even the mistakes you wished could be erased. The mercy of God had woven all of it into a tapestry, still unfinished, threads of sorrow and hope and beauty, all stitched together by hands that knew exactly what they were doing. And you, the one who had once wandered so far, you were still here, still standing, still beloved. There was no measure your angel could use to capture the magnitude of that mercy, no words adequate to describe the miracle of your story. Heaven itself watched in wonder, for every soul that turns back toward the light, every heart that chooses grace over bitterness, every life that refuses to be swallowed by darkness, is a victory that shakes the very foundations of eternity. You were such a victory, not because you had walked a flawless road, but because you had dared to keep walking at all. Isaiah 30:18 spoke gently over your life, yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you. Therefore he will rise up to show you compassion, for the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. Your guardian knelt often in the hidden spaces of your days, offering thanks for every mercy that had saved you, every unseen rescue, every quiet whisper of hope that had kept you breathing, believing, becoming. You were not who you used to be, and though you were not yet all you would become, heaven rejoiced over the work already begun. You were learning to see yourself not through the broken lens of the world, but through the eyes of the one who had never once turned away from you. And your guardian, the one who had been assigned to you before your first breath, rejoiced with every step you took closer to home. There would still be valleys ahead, still storms to weather, still battles to fight, but you were no longer walking blind. You were no longer walking alone. The same mercy that had followed you through every shadow, the same love that had called your name through every silence, the same grace that had rewritten your story again and again. It would not leave you now. It would carry you forward, stronger than your doubts, steadier than your fears, more faithful than your own wavering heart. You were living proof of it. God's mercy is never defeated. God's love is never withdrawn. And your guardian, who had seen every chapter,
who had fought for your soul in ways you would never fully know, smiled unseen, a smile filled with wonder, with pride, with unshakable hope, for your story was still unfolding, and the best was yet to come.
There is a moment when the soul, once lost and wandering, begins to hear the faint echo of its true name, not the name given by the world, not the name shaped by mistakes or fears, but the name spoken by the mouth of God before time itself began. You began to hear it, softly at first, like the distant call of a song you almost remembered, a stirring deep within you, deeper than fear, deeper than doubt, deeper even than the wounds you thought had defined you. It was the call of purpose, of destiny woven not by accident, but by divine hands that had never once lost sight of you. And your guardian, faithful from your first breath, watched with trembling joy as you began to listen. You were never meant to wander forever. You were never meant to drift through life unanchored, unseen. You were created for something more. You were made to shine. There were days when you felt it like fire in your bones, a passion that refused to be ignored, a hunger to live for something bigger than yourself, a longing to heal what was broken, to speak life where there was despair, to carry light into the shadows that once tried to claim you. Jeremiah 1:5 had always been true of you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. You were known, you were chosen, you were called, not because you were perfect, but because you were willing to believe, even with trembling hands and a shaking heart, that your life was meant for more than survival. You were meant to love fiercely, to hope stubbornly, to walk bravely into places others feared to go, carrying with you the unshakable light of the one who had never given up on you. Your guardian saw it even before you did. He saw it in the way you leaned into kindness, even when cruelty would have been easier. He saw it in the way your heart broke for others who walked heavy under burdens they could not name. He saw it in the prayers you whispered, not just for yourself, but for those who hurt you, for those who needed the mercy you had found. You were becoming, not the person the world demanded you to be, but the one God had dreamed you would become when He first breathed life into your spirit. There were still fears, of course, still moments when you doubted you were enough, still days when you wanted to turn back, to choose the easier path. But now there was something stronger than fear inside you, a quiet courage growing in the soil of every sorrow you had survived, a faith built not on untested hopes, but on the battle-scarred, tear-soaked road you had walked, and the God who had walked it with you. Ephesians 2:10 whispered your truth, for we are God's masterpiece created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do. You were not an accident. You were not a mistake. You were a masterpiece, crafted for a purpose greater than anything you could yet imagine. And your guardian, who had shielded your first breath, who had wept over every wandering, who had rejoiced over every step homeward, stood ready to walk with you into this new chapter. There would be battles ahead. Yes, there would be mountains to climb, valleys to cross, storms to endure. But now you knew. You were not walking in circles. You were walking toward destiny. You did not carry the weight alone. You were carried by grace. You were upheld by mercy. You were guarded by love. And you were called by name by the one who holds the stars in his hands and yet knows the number of hairs on your head. Your story was still being written, every page infused with purpose, every step marked with meaning, every breath a testimony to a love that had never, not even once, let you go. You had heard the call, and you, brave soul, were beginning to answer. There comes a time in every journey when the road behind feels heavier than the road ahead, when the soul stands trembling at the edge of the unknown, knowing that to move forward means to leave behind everything familiar. You stood there now, on the threshold, between the life you had known and the life still waiting to be discovered, between the comfort of yesterday and the calling of tomorrow. And your guardian, faithful as ever, stood at your side. He had seen this moment long before you reached it. He had prayed for it, fought for it, believed for it, even when you doubted it would ever come. Now he watched as you faced the horizon, your heart filled with a mixture of fear and hope, uncertainty and courage, 1,000 questions rising all at once. Could you really do this? Could you step forward into a future you could not yet see? Could you trust the one who had carried you this far to carry you still further? The questions swirled like storm clouds, and yet beneath them, a quiet peace was beginning to stir, because deep down you knew.
You knew you had not come this far by accident. You knew that every sorrow had been shaping you, every battle refining you, every grace preparing you. You were not who you used to be. You were stronger, wiser, more beautiful in spirit than you had ever dared to believe. And though the path ahead was still hidden, you were learning to trust not in what you could see, but in the one who had never once abandoned you. Proverbs 3:5-6 whispered through the winds of your spirit, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Your guardian looked upon you with a love deeper than any words could express. He saw the scars you carried, not as marks of shame, but as trophies of survival. He saw the wounds healed by mercy, the strength born from surrender, the beauty crafted from brokenness, and he knew you were ready. Not ready because you felt fearless, but ready because you had learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward even when fear is loud. You stood there breathing in the unknown. The future stretched before you, like a vast ocean, glittering with possibilities yet shadowed by uncertainty, and still, you stepped, one trembling step, then another. Your angel moved with you, unseen but closer than your own shadow, carrying your prayers before the throne of God, whispering blessings over your journey, strengthening your spirit for the battles and blessings yet to come. There would be moments ahead when you would want to turn back, moments when the storms would rage and the night would seem endless, moments when the old doubts would claw at your heart, but there would also be victories, victories that would echo in the halls of heaven, victories that would light fires in the hearts of others, still lost in the dark, victories that would stand as living proof of what God can do with a willing, broken, surrendered life. Your story was not one of perfect strength, it was one of relentless grace. You were not walking alone. The same hands that shaped the mountains and calmed the seas were the hands that now held your future. Jeremiah 29:11 was a song written into your spirit long before you knew to seek it. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And your guardian, the one who had watched over your first cry and your first prayer, rejoiced to see you step into the destiny he had always known was yours. The edge of tomorrow was no longer something to fear, it was a doorway, and beyond that doorway, your true story awaited, a story of redemption, a story of light, a story that even the darkest night could not silence. You were ready, you were called, you were chosen, and heaven itself moved with you, every step of the way. Stepping into a new season rarely feels like the beginning of a grand adventure. More often, it feels like the smallest of steps, awkward, uncertain, unseen by most. You walked forward, not with fanfare, not with the certainty the world demanded, but with something far more precious. Faith. Faith that had been forged in the fires of sorrow. Faith that had been watered by tears and shaped by the steady hands of mercy. Faith that, though trembling, was real. Your days became a dance between the seen and the unseen. There were blessings, moments when grace seemed to fall like rain, filling your soul with wonder, reminding you how deeply you were loved. And there were trials, seasons when prayers seemed to echo unanswered, when the road grew steep and the night stretched long. But through both, you kept walking, not perfectly, not without fear, but faithfully, and your guardian walked with you. Every step, he watched as you chose again and again to trust, to believe when it would have been easier to doubt, to hope when it would have been safer to guard your heart. 2 Corinthians 5:7 became the quiet anthem of your days. For we walk by faith, not by sight. You learned that faith was not always a roar of certainty. Sometimes it was a whisper, "I will trust you, even here." You learned that miracles were not always parted seas and fire from heaven. Sometimes they were smaller, quieter things, a provision just when you needed it, a word spoken at the perfect time, a strength rising within you that you knew was not your own. Your guardian rejoiced over every act of faith, no matter how small it seemed. Each prayer whispered into the dark was a victory. Each step taken when fear told you to stop was a battle won. Each moment you chose kindness over bitterness, forgiveness over anger, hope over despair. These were victories that shook the unseen world. You were no longer the child lost in the shadows. You were becoming a warrior of light. Your prayers grew stronger, not because life became easier, but because you had learned that weakness was not a curse. It was an invitation. an invitation for God's strength to be made perfect in you. 2 Corinthians 12:9 whispered across your spirit again and again, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." You learned to lift your eyes when storms raged, to find peace not in the absence of trouble, but in the presence of the one who walked on water. Your guardian watched as your faith grew roots, deep, stubborn roots that anchored you when the winds came, and he knew you were not the same soul who once doubted they could even take a single step forward. You were walking now, sometimes slowly, sometimes haltingly, sometimes with a heart so full of wonder it spilled out in laughter and tears all at once. But you were walking. You had not given up, and heaven itself rejoiced. There were days when you saw glimpses of how your journey touched others, a word you spoke that brought life, a kindness that rippled outward farther than you knew. And there were many days when you wondered if you were making any difference at all. Your guardian smiled unseen in those moments, for he knew that the seeds you planted, seeds watered with faith and tears, would bear fruit in ways you could not yet imagine. Galatians 6:9 held the quiet promise you clung to: "Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." You were learning not to measure your worth by the world's standards, not by how loud your voice was, or how visible your victories were, but by the simple, stubborn act of faithfulness. One step, one prayer, one act of love at a time. This was how mountains were moved. This was how the kingdom of heaven grew, and through it all, your guardian remained, a silent companion in your victories, a steady strength in your failures, a witness to the miracle of your becoming. You were learning to walk by faith, and with every trembling step, you were becoming who you were always meant to be, not by sight, not by strength, but by grace, by the hand of the one who had never once let you go. There are moments in every life, moments so quiet they almost go unnoticed, when a soul once struggling just to survive becomes a beacon for others still wandering in the dark. You are becoming that light, not because you sought to shine, not because you chased the approval of the world, but because your simple, faithful walk began to leave footprints of hope wherever you passed. Your guardian, ever watchful, saw it first. He saw it in the way others looked at you, not with admiration, but with the kind of longing that only those who have tasted deep sorrow can recognize. They saw something different in you, a peace that could not be explained, a strength that was not your own, a light that had survived the storm. You did not always notice, you did not always feel strong. Many days you still wrestled with doubts, still whispered prayers for strength just to take the next step. But heaven knew, your guardian knew. You were carrying the flame of faith, and even the smallest light can drive back the deepest darkness. Matthew 5:14-16 had been written across your spirit long ago. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Your light was not loud. It was not boastful. It was the quiet, stubborn glow of a soul that had learned mercy firsthand, that had clung to hope when it would have been easier to let go. It was in the kindness you offered, without expecting anything in return. It was in the patience you showed when others grew weary. It was in the way you listened to hurting hearts, carrying their burdens in prayer even when they didn't know. It was in the way you forgave those who had wounded you, trusting that healing was a higher road than bitterness. You were becoming a living testimony, a letter written, not in ink, but in the story of your life. 2 Corinthians 3:3 whispers this truth. You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. And your guardian, who had seen your journey from the very beginning, rejoiced in every step you took that brought light to another's darkness. He knew that each act of love, each word of encouragement, each silent prayer offered for someone else's healing was a weapon against the despair that tried to claim so many hearts. You were not just being rescued, you were becoming a rescuer, not by your own strength, but by the overflow of the grace that had carried you. There were moments when you doubted your impact, moments when you wondered if your small acts of love mattered at all. But heaven knew. Heaven saw the ripples you created, ripples that stretched farther than you would ever know this side of eternity. A single word of hope, spoken in obedience, could heal a wound decades old. A single prayer, whispered in faith, could change the course of a soul lost in despair. You were not insignificant. You were not unseen. You were a lighthouse in the storm, steady even when the waves crashed hard. You were a shelter for others, not because you were perfect, but because you had learned where true refuge could be found. Psalm 61:2-4 had become your quiet strength. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee, when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for thou hast been a shelter for me, and a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings. Your story was no longer just about survival, it was about shining. It was about carrying hope forward for those who had not yet found their way. And your guardian, the one who had fought for your heart when it seemed all but lost, now fought with joy, for he saw what you could not always see. You were changing the world, one prayer, one act of kindness, one trembling step of faith at a time, and heaven rejoiced with every light you lit in the darkness. There are moments, even in the hearts of angels, when time itself seems to pause. Standing in the quiet places beyond the sight of men, your guardian watched you, not with pity, not with mere duty, but with a deep, overwhelming awe, for he knew something you had only just begun to glimpse. This journey you were walking, this faith you were building, this love you were learning to carry, it was still only the beginning. The promises spoken over your life had not faded with time. They had only grown deeper, stronger, richer, woven by unseen hands into every breath you took. You had not been brought this far simply to survive. You had been called to flourish, to build, to become. There were dreams planted inside you that you had not yet dared to dream. There were songs inside you that the world had not yet heard. There were battles you would fight, not just for yourself, but for those too weary to lift their own swords. And through it all, your guardian would remain at your side. Isaiah 43:1 echoed softly over your spirit. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. You were his, not because of what you had done, but because of who he is, and he was not finished with you yet. Your guardian could see it, the road that stretched before you, winding and wild and filled with both valleys and mountaintops. He could see the lives you would touch, the hearts you would help heal, the light you would carry into places still trapped in darkness. You could not see it yet, not fully. Some days you still felt small, some days you still questioned whether your steps mattered at all, but heaven knew, and heaven rejoiced. For your journey was not measured by how quickly you moved, nor by how loudly you shined. It was measured by faithfulness, by the quiet, stubborn decision to keep saying yes to the one who called you. There would be moments ahead that would test you, storms that would try to shake your roots, wilderness seasons where the voice of God would feel distant, but there would also be victories, breakthroughs, miracles that would leave you breathless in wonder. Your guardian smiled, unseen, knowing what waited ahead. He knew that even in the hardest days to come, the same God who had carried you through every past storm would carry you still. He knew that you would rise again, and again, and again, not because of your strength, but because of the strength of the one who lived within you. Philippians 1:6 remained a promise etched into the very foundation of your being. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. The work was not done. The story was still unfolding. The best was still ahead. You were a living testament to redemption, a breathing declaration that mercy wins, a shining reminder that no one is too far, too broken, too lost for the love of God to reach. And your guardian, the one who had wept over your wounds, rejoiced over your victories, and prayed over every trembling step, was honored to walk this road with you still. The journey is long, it is hard, it is beautiful beyond all imagination, and you, beloved soul, have only just begun. The promises yet to come will be greater than the sorrows left behind. The light you carry will burn brighter than every shadow you have ever faced. The hope you live will draw others home, again and again and again, for you are his, forever. And he is not finished writing your story yet, not even close. In the hidden places beyond human sight, where the light of heaven touches the earth like morning mist, your guardian knelt. The journey you had walked, the victories, the wounds, the wandering, the return, it all rose before him like a great tapestry, woven not by chance, but by the loving hands of God himself. And now, in this sacred moment,
Your guardian bowed low, lifting a prayer of gratitude so deep, so full of awe, that the very air seemed to tremble with its weight. He thanked the Father for you, for the life that had once been just a whisper of a promise, now standing strong against the winds of a broken world, for the faith that had once flickered so faintly, now burning with a steady, stubborn light, for the heart that had been wounded but not destroyed, broken but not bitter, lost but never beyond the reach of mercy. Psalm 104 rose like incense from his heart. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. And so he gave thanks. He thanked God for every tear that had softened your spirit, for every failure that had taught you grace, for every dark night that had made you hunger for the morning. He thanked God for the days you almost gave up but didn't, for the battles you almost lost but somehow still survived, for the prayers you thought went unheard, but that shook the very gates of heaven. He thanked God for you, not for who you might someday become, but for who you already were, beloved, chosen, redeemed. And then his prayer turned toward the future. He prayed for strength, strength that did not depend on circumstances, but on the unchanging faithfulness of the one who had called you. He prayed for courage, courage to walk roads few would understand, courage to believe in promises not yet fulfilled. He prayed for hope, hope that would anchor you when the storms returned, hope that would shine through you to others still trapped in the dark. He prayed that you would know, in the depths of your soul, that you were never alone, not in the valleys, not on the mountaintops, not in the long silent stretches in between. Isaiah 41:10 whispered through the unseen realms, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Your guardian clung to that promise on your behalf. He prayed that you would feel it, not just believe it in theory, but know it in the marrow of your bones, that you would rise each day, wrapped in the unshakable truth that you are loved beyond measure, guarded beyond comprehension, called to a life far greater than you can yet see. He prayed that the light within you would never dim, no matter how fierce the winds became, that you would be a living testimony, a lighthouse for the weary, a shelter for the broken, that your life would tell the story, not of your own strength, but of the relentless pursuing, unbreakable love of God. And finally, he prayed the deepest prayer of all, that when your journey at last reaches its final mile, when your feet cross the threshold from time into eternity, you will run, not crawl, into the arms of the one who has loved you all along, that you will hear the words your soul was created to long for, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And in that moment, your guardian knows he will stand back, unseen, and rejoice, for his greatest joy is not in being seen, not in being thanked, but in knowing that the one he was sent to guard found their way home. You, beloved soul, are the answer to 1,000 prayers. You are the victory of a love that never gave up. You are the living echo of grace, and heaven, even now, rejoices over you. The storms had not vanished. The road had not suddenly become smooth and easy, but something within you had changed. You walked forward now, not because the way was clear, but because your heart was steady. You walked in peace, not the fragile peace the world offers, shifting with every storm, fading with every sorrow, but the peace that is anchored in something deeper, in someone deeper. Philippians 4:7 whispered over your life, "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Your guardian watched with a joy too deep for words as you moved forward, step by step, carrying a peace that the world could not steal. There were still days when tears filled your eyes, still nights when questions rose heavier than the stars, still battles that left your soul bruised and weary. But you were no longer tossed by every wave. You were no longer lost in every storm. You had learned where your anchor lay. You had learned that peace was not the absence of trouble, but the presence of the Almighty within the trouble. And so you walked, sometimes with boldness, sometimes with trembling, sometimes with only enough strength for a single step, but always forward, always toward the one who had never stopped calling your name. Your guardian moved with you, unseen but unwavering, carrying your prayers to the throne, weaving unseen shields around your path, singing over you songs of hope in the silent places of your journey. There were days when you felt the quiet nudge to speak kindness to a stranger, to offer forgiveness where bitterness once ruled, to trust when everything inside you screamed to retreat.
and when you obeyed, the heavens rejoiced. For every small act of faith was another brick laid in the kingdom of light you were building with your life. Psalm 32:8 wrapped itself gently around your steps. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. You were being led, not by fear, not by pressure, but by love. And your guardian who had walked with you through every valley rejoiced to see you beginning to live, not as a prisoner of the past, but as a child of promise. You learned to find beauty even in the broken places. You learned to see the fingerprints of God in the smallest details. A sunrise painted just for you, a word spoken just in time, a strength rising in you when you knew you had none left to give. You learned that your life was not a series of random events, but a carefully woven story of redemption and hope. And even when the world rushed around you, even when chaos whispered from every corner, you found a stillness within that could not be shaken. A stillness rooted not in circumstance, but in the unchanging heart of your Creator. Isaiah 26:3 became the steady drumbeat of your spirit. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. You trusted now, not perfectly, not without moments of fear, but truly, and that trust became your shield, your song, your strength. The journey ahead was still long. There would be more storms, more valleys, more mountains to climb, but you no longer feared them, for you had seen the faithfulness of the one who called you. You had tasted his mercy, you had walked in his peace, and you knew now, truly knew, that nothing could separate you from his love. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Your guardian, watching with a heart full of holy pride, saw in you what he had always known, a soul that had been fought for, a soul that had been redeemed, a soul that now walked, not by sight, but by faith, and heaven itself leaned closer to watch the next chapter unfold. For you, beloved soul, were just getting started, and the peace within you was a beacon that would light the way for many still wandering in the dark. It is a strange thing how the smallest acts of faithfulness can ripple outward beyond anything we ever see. You did not set out to build a legacy. You simply chose, day after day, to keep walking in the light. Yet your guardian, standing beyond the veil of sight, saw it unfolding. A legacy not written in stone, or wealth, or fame, but in hearts touched, lives changed, hope restored. You were already leaving a mark upon the world. Every prayer whispered in secret, every hand lifted to help another, every burden carried for someone too weary to carry their own. These were the threads weaving a story far larger than you knew. Hebrews 6:10 resounded softly across your path. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. Nothing was forgotten. No prayer went unheard. No kindness went unnoticed. No small act of love went unseen. You were sowing seeds you might never witness bloom in your lifetime, but heaven saw. Heaven rejoiced. Your guardian watched as your life became a lamp in the dark, a shelter for those battered by storms, a quiet testimony that God's mercy is not a story of the past, but a living, breathing reality even now. There were souls who drew strength from your courage, even if you never heard their names. There were hearts that found hope again, because your light shone when they needed it most. And every time you chose faith over fear, kindness over bitterness, hope over despair, your legacy deepened, an invisible kingdom, built brick by brick, through obedience and grace. You were not building monuments of stone, you were building monuments of mercy, and your guardian knelt in reverence before the story being written through your life. There were days when you felt small, days when you wondered if your steps made any difference at all, days when you questioned if your quiet acts of love were enough, but heaven knew. Heaven counted not as men count, not in numbers, not in trophies, not in applause. Heaven counted in lives touched, in burdens lifted, in chains broken by a single word of hope. 2 Timothy 4:7-8 whispered like a promise across your spirit. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And though your race was not yet finished, you were running well. You were running with eyes fixed not on the shifting sands of this world, but on the unshakable promises of eternity. Your guardian rejoiced, not in your perfection, but in your perseverance. For in every trembling prayer, in every broken hallelujah, in every stubborn act of love, You were declaring the faithfulness of God to a world desperate to believe it. You were writing a legacy written not by your own strength, but by the fingerprints of grace all over your life. And one day, when you stand at the end of your race, you will look back and see the fields blooming behind you, fields watered with tears, planted with prayer, harvested by hope. You will see that your life mattered far more than you ever knew, that your journey was never wasted, that every step, even the stumbling ones, were gathered into a story that brought glory to the one who never let you go. And your guardian, who has watched over every moment, will stand beside you with joy, shining brighter than the morning sun, rejoicing over a life well lived, a race well run, a heart well kept. You are already building your legacy, beloved soul, one act of love at a time, one quiet prayer at a time, one step of faith at a time, and heaven rejoices over you, even now. There are dreams we dare to whisper only in the deepest places of our hearts. Dreams shaped by longing, by hope, by the secret ache to live a life that matters. You carried such dreams, fragile, beautiful, imperfect. Some you spoke aloud, others you kept hidden, fearing they were too big, or perhaps too small to matter to a God who holds the universe. But your guardian, standing unseen at your side, knew a truth even deeper. The dreams you carried were only the beginning. God's dreams for you were greater still. Isaiah 55:9 declares it with quiet wonder. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Your dreams were precious, sacred, but they were only glimpses, reflections of a far greater story still unfolding. There were places you had not yet seen, battles you had not yet fought, victories you had not yet even begun to imagine. There were lives waiting to be touched by your faith, songs waiting to be sung from the depths of your healing, rivers of mercy waiting to flow through the places you would one day walk. Your guardian saw it, the beauty of the story still waiting just beyond the horizon of your sight. He knew there would be moments when you would feel your dreams slipping through your fingers, moments when hope would feel too costly to carry, moments when you would wonder if you had missed your chance, if you were too late, too broken, too small. But heaven's dreams are not bound by earthly clocks. Heaven's promises do not crumble under the weight of human fear. You were still right where you needed to be. Every delay, every detour, every closed door was only shaping you for the promises still ahead. Jeremiah 29:11 had not been silenced over your life. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Your guardian prayed over you in the secret hours, lifting your hopes to the one who had dreamed even greater dreams for you. He prayed that you would not grow weary in waiting, that you would not settle for a life smaller than the one you were born to live, that you would trust, even when you could not see, that God's timing was not a denial, but a divine preparation. You were being made ready for greater love, for greater trust, for greater purpose. The dreams God had for you were not about status or fame. They were about redemption, about becoming a living reflection of His goodness in a world desperate for light. You would heal what had been broken. You would build what had been torn down. You would speak life where others had spoken only despair, not because you were flawless, but because grace had made its home within you. You would live a life that mattered, not by the measures of men, but by the measures of eternity. And your guardian, who had watched over your first cry, your first prayer, your first trembling step back toward hope, would walk with you into every promise. There would be days ahead when the dreams God placed within you would stretch you, days when faith would demand more than you thought you could give, days when you would have to choose, again and again, to believe. But you would not walk alone. The same God who called you would sustain you. The same God who began the good work would be faithful to complete it. Philippians 1:6 sang through the corridors of time. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Your story was still being written. Your dreams were still being shaped, and the greatest chapters were still to come. You were the work of a master artist, a masterpiece still unfolding, still becoming, still shining brighter with every step of trust. And heaven rejoiced over you, not for what you would achieve, but for the beauty of who you were becoming along the way. The dreams you dared to hope for were only a glimpse. God's dreams for you were greater than you could ever imagine, and they were just beginning to unfold. There are days when even the strongest hearts grow tired,
Days when your soul feels heavy beneath the weight of what cannot yet be seen. When the path ahead feels longer than you expected, and the light seems dimmer than it used to be. You've known these days. You've walked through mornings where faith felt quiet, where joy felt distant, where you whispered prayers not with confidence, but with trembling hope that someone still heard you. And your guardian, always near, always watching, stood closer than ever during these moments. Not to push you forward, not to rush you into action, but to remind you of a truth that is so easy to forget. Even now, even here. Heaven is still cheering for you. Hebrews 12:1 echoes softly in the silence. Since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. You are not running alone. You are not unseen in your weariness. You are not forgotten in your struggle to keep believing. Your every step, no matter how slow, is seen, is honored, is cheered. There are angels who remember your first cry, your first prayer, your first broken moment of surrender. There are saints who walked before you, who understand the ache of carrying unseen burdens. And now they lean over the edges of eternity, watching you take one more step, offering silent encouragement with every breath of courage you still dare to give. Heaven does not cheer for perfection. Heaven rejoices over persistence. Every time you rise again, every time you choose hope when despair is easier, every time you say, God, I trust you still, the chorus of heaven swells in celebration. Your guardian feels it, the joy, the gratitude, the echo of heaven's applause over a life still holding on to grace. He watches you when you wake up tired and still choose to love, when you face disappointment and still choose to believe, when you feel forgotten but still lift your eyes to the sky. These are the victories the world never sees, but heaven sees them. Heaven never forgets them. Isaiah 40:29-31 wraps around your heart like a gentle whisper. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. You are not weak for needing rest. You are not failing for feeling tired. You are human, and more than that, you are loved. Your guardian sees not just the steps you take, but the weight you carry with each one. He knows the battles you face in silence. He knows the tears you don't speak aloud, and he offers no condemnation, only comfort, only presence, only the steady assurance that you are still on the path, and you are still held. There will be moments ahead where your soul finds strength again, moments when laughter returns easily, when clarity floods your steps like sunrise, when joy feels like a river again instead of a drop. But even now, even in the stillness, even in the shadows, you are not forgotten. Heaven is cheering for you, and your guardian kneeling unseen beside you, prays that you will feel it, that somewhere deep within you, a quiet voice will rise and whisper, you are doing better than you think. You are not failing. You are not alone. You are loved. You are seen. You are still moving forward. And that is enough. There is a day coming, a day written in eternity's unshakable script, when every step you took in faith, every prayer you thought was lost, every tear you cried in secret will be seen for what they truly were. Jewels, victories, songs sung in the language of heaven. Your guardian often looks toward that day, not with impatience, but with quiet, certain hope, because he knows he has seen how every moment of your story matters far more than you realize. There will come a moment, beyond the veil of time, when you will stand at last in the presence of the one who formed you, who loved you through every shadow, who carried you when you had no strength left. And on that day, beloved soul, you will see how the moments you thought were wasted were actually foundations being laid. You will see how the prayers you thought fell silent were gathered like treasures in the courts of heaven. You will see how the nights you thought would never end were building within you, a strength that the storms could not steal. You will see the faces of those whose lives were touched by your light, faces you may never have known on earth, but who found hope because you chose to keep believing when it was hardest. 2 Corinthians 4:17-18 will unfold before you in vivid beauty. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all.
So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. The small acts of love, the whispered prayers, the trembling steps of faith, none of them were ever small to God. Your guardian knows that day will be unlike any other. He imagines the look on your face when you see the full tapestry, woven with threads of sorrow and joy, faith and struggle, love and grace. Threads you could not always see clearly from where you stood, but that from heaven's perspective created something breathtaking beyond words. You will see how you were never walking alone, how angels fought unseen battles on your behalf, how the Spirit whispered when you were too weary to listen, how the Father's hand was always stretched out to you, even in your darkest hours. And when you see it, truly see it, you will not regret a single prayer, not a single sacrifice, not a single step of faith. Your guardian believes with every fiber of his being that on that day the weight you carried will seem light compared to the glory that surrounds you. Romans 8:18 will finally make perfect sense. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. You will stand whole, you will stand radiant, you will stand in the full measure of who you were always created to be, and your guardian, who has walked beside you from the first breath to the last, will kneel in joy, his mission fulfilled, his prayers answered, not because you were flawless, not because you never stumbled, but because you never gave up, because you allowed grace to have the final word. There will be songs sung over you, songs of triumph, songs of belonging, songs of a homecoming written before the foundations of the world, and you will know, at last, that every step mattered, every tear was precious, every breath was part of a greater story, a story only heaven could fully understand. You were always loved, you were always seen, you were always carried, and one day soon you will see it all, face to face, and every sorrow will melt into joy, forever.
And now, beloved soul, as the pages of this chapter come to a close, your guardian stands near, silent, reverent, his heart full of a love deeper than words. He watches you, not as one who pities, but as one who marvels. For you are the living proof of grace, the living echo of a love that never gave up, the beautiful evidence that even in a broken world, light still rises, hope still breathes, redemption still reigns. And so, with hands lifted toward the heavens, he speaks a final blessing over you, a prayer woven from the very heart of the one who formed you. May you always know, deep beyond the reach of fear, that you are never alone. May you walk forward with courage, even when the road is shrouded in mist, even when the night grows long. May the love that has carried you this far continue to strengthen you for every step still ahead. May you feel the nearness of heaven in your quietest moments, in your smallest victories, in your deepest battles. May you never forget that your life matters more than you can see, that your prayers shift unseen mountains, that your kindness ripples through eternity, that your hope brings light to souls you will never even meet. May your heart find rest, not in the certainty of the future, but in the certainty of the one who holds it. May your days be marked not by the absence of storms, but by the unshakable peace that holds you steady within them. May your dreams stretch farther than fear, your love grow deeper than wounds, your faith rise higher than the voices that would seek to silence it. And when you feel weary, as you will, may you remember that heaven is still cheering for you, that your guardian still watches with pride, that the Father's arms are always open, always waiting, always ready to lift you higher than you ever dared to dream. Numbers 6:24. 26 rests gently over your life like a crown. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are not abandoned. You are loved. You are chosen. You are his. And this journey, beautiful, broken, breathtaking, is only the beginning of a story that will echo across eternity. Your guardian lowers his hands, his prayer offered, his heart full. He smiles, the soft, triumphant smile of one who knows the end of the story will be worth every step. You are walking forward into glory. You are walking forward into light, and all of heaven rejoices to watch you rise.